What is going on YouTube? DoubleO88 here, and today we are checking out the Critical Drinker and his boys. They're going to be talking about Fallout, which is a show I've recently reviewed. I've watched it and I loved it. I've watched it twice now, once on my own and then once with my fiance, and she really enjoyed it as well. She's never really played the games at all and she enjoyed it. So there goes the member berries criticism already. But yeah, I really like this show and I hate where modern Hollywood has been going recently with everything they've been doing for the past 10 or so years, where everything's been trash, everything's been woke, everything's been uninspired. But this was like a breath of fresh air, Fallout, and I really enjoyed it. I was debating whether this would be the greatest video game adaptation or not to myself in my review. I don't know. A lot of people are starting to say it is. People are saying it's better than The Last of Us. Even Critical Drinker in his review said it was better than The Last of Us. I mean, and he's absolutely right with his analysis where he said The Last of Us is probably more deeper, whereas Fallout is just a lot more fun. And I think that's the thing here. The Fallout TV show was just a whole bunch of fun. And I just find it so interesting now. I've been watching. These are the talking heads of media today, or at least self-made media, so to speak. And you got Nerdrotic, you got Mauler, you got the Critical Drinker, you got people like Hill versus Babyface, you got Geeks and Gamers and all their crew, you got all the anti kind of woke people on YouTube who've more or less had the same my echo chamber. Well, I mean, we make fun of the leftist ideology for always being in their echo chambers, not wanting to talk to anybody else, which is very true. But sometimes these guys can fall a little bit into that trap where they fall into their own little echo chambers. And this, I mean, I wouldn't say they're an echo chamber, but sometimes it can feel a little bit like that. They're all just dog shitting on everything woke together and all agreeing, and it can get a little bit boring. So this one was a really interesting little debate they had on the new Fallout TV show, where they disagreed on plot points, and some of them said it was some parts was woke or some parts weren't woke. But it was just really interesting to see these big names in movies and gaming media on YouTube and social media right now having a little debate for once, rather than always agreeing with each other. And yeah, I want to talk about it myself. I want to kind of back Critical Drinker a little bit here, because I know he liked the show, I like the show, whereas he's getting like dogpiled on from Nerdrotic, Mauler, and Reaper. I know this Lance guy seemed to have liked the show as well. But it's really interesting because you've got people like the H-Man Reviews, who's kind of part of this crew a little bit. He's talked to them a little bit, and he likes the show. You got Midnight's Edge, who I've watched recently. They like the show. Andre from Midnight's Edge, and I can't remember the other older guy's name, something like that. This guy, I'll put him on the screen. I can't remember his name, but I know he's like in this space a little bit, and he liked the show a lot. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think Tyrone Magnus is into the show. I know this whole crew of people, this is getting really divisive right now amongst the whole anti-woke crowd, kind of, which is really interesting. I don't even know what the other side is saying. I think they were mostly just like it, the left wing and all that. They think the Fallout TV show is a communist wet dream, I think. But I don't know if it's communist. But anyway, let's get into it. We're gonna try and debunk some of Mauler's claims. There's a long-ass intro just then. I don't know. I'm not going to react to this entire thing, but I'm just going to get to the main points of contentions that I have with some of what Mauler says and Reaper. And yeah, let's get into it.
Why don't you set the stage, Drinker? You give your take, and then we'll do a little round table.
We'll unbox you.
Okay, I mean, my overall take was that. Yeah, I'm going to run away.
I liked it,
man. See, Critical Drinker, man, you can already see he's like, fuck, my friends don't like it, I'm the only one that likes it, fuck. I hope he's not thinking that. I hope he sticks to his guns. I hope he just sticks to himself. Don't grift. I know when you're as popular as these guys, it's probably super tempting to just grift. But I don't know if that's true, because I feel like if you're less popular, you want to grift more, right? I don't know. But Critical Drinker, man, stick to your guns. Don't let these guys make you feel like you got to say the show's woke or some crap like that. Stick to your guns, buddy.
I liked the main character. I thought that she was nicely drawn. She wasn't like a Hollywood girl boss who just dominates at everything.
She was actually pretty crap at a lot of things.
Well, yeah, she kind of gets her ass kicked. And
yeah. I've been saying the thing about Lucy is it feels like she's almost. It feels like she might be less of a Mary Sue than Ellen Ripley, and I say Ellen Ripley because That's the argument everybody, including me, always goes to when we want to talk about good female characters that aren't Mary Sue's. And I feel like she gets her ass kicked more than Ellen Ripley. Now, I know Mauler's going to come in now and say, oh, something bad happens to her and it gets immediately reversed and all this shit. I'll talk about that in a second. But I don't know, man. She gets pretty whooped. Nothing good happens for her, really. She's just a bit lucky that she doesn't die, which you could say the same thing about Ellen Ripley, especially in the later films where it gets to Aliens 2 and don't talk about Aliens 3, but I can't remember what the fourth Alien film was called, Resurrection or something. Anyway, but I don't know. I just thought Lucy was just not a Mary Sue at all. She just got lucky a few times, you know. And then apparently that's not good enough anymore. That's still Mary Sue to some people. But let's get back into this.
Goes on a bit of a character journey where she's like super naive and a bit useless at everything. Learns some harsh lessons, and eventually evolves into a slightly more savvy person who learns some harsh truths.
I didn't like everything about it. I had some issues with it, and I'm sure that they're going to get vocalized by others. But on the whole, I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, tell us why we're wrong.
And here comes Mauler. To just cap off what that Lance guy was saying, like I wanted to make that clear as well, that I do believe that the show is definitely not perfect and there's definitely some plot holes. I've watched this debate already live when they were streaming it, and yeah, Mauler did make some things apparent to me that I wasn't really thinking about before, which seems he had the same effect on these guys as well. That's Mauler's thing. He makes you see things that he couldn't see before, but it's still a good show though, I think, like regardless of some of the plot holes, and some of the plot holes he's even wrong about. A lot of things Mauler either just is being a bit too autistic, pedantic about, or he's just wrong. But there are some things that are plot holes, but they're not breaking. They don't break the immersion to the point where I can't enjoy the show. Clearly, and that's the same for a lot of people, because the show's fucking hitting it through the roof right now, even with their own fans, people like Maulers fans and Nerdrotic fans. So they're obviously doing something right, even if there are some plot holes here and there. I mean, if you really want to, you can fucking find a plot hole in almost any fucking great movie out there if you really want to.
Well, I'll start with the positives. It looks good, and I like Walton Goggins. Now for the negatives. Every character is stupid. The plot makes no sense. The comedy is like done by a teenager. There's a girl who just pisses all over the floor because her water's broke. And everyone's going, oh, it's like, oh,
that's wrong straight away. There's no girl that pisses all over the floor because the water's broken and everybody goes, I don't even really understand. They don't react like that. They're a bit shocked for a second and they just deal with it. They handle it. I don't know what kind of exaggeration this Reaper guy's saying there, but I don't.
Comedy is awful. Everyone is stupid. The main villain, her entire plan makes no sense. Maximus doesn't even know what his dick's for. She goes, do I have sex? He goes, oh, you mean use my penis? Or what else do you...
That line was funny. And he said, use my cock. My criticism of that would be, I don't think the joke was worth it. Like, at first glance, when he said that, it felt like it didn't make sense that he wouldn't know what sex is or what his penis is for. Even if he is a virgin, even if he hasn't been taught anything, I feel like he'd know something. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just nature, right? I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't, maybe you wouldn't. I mean, we forget how much we've been taught and the things we've experienced and the things that people we've spoken to. We take it for granted. What would it actually be like to grow up in a place where all they teach you about is how to fight and how to kill or how to be a squire or whatnot, and they don't teach you nothing else. They don't teach you anything about fornication or nothing. But it's a bit silly when you have the Brotherhood members have female members and they thems and things like that. They have these female members, but they've never experienced sex or anything. I find that hard to believe. They would have definitely figured out how to plow each other. Even if they're all lesbians, it probably wouldn't end that way. There's female members there, and you can't have both. I just don't think. That's my criticism. But his criticism is like, oh, it's just stupid and not funny. I mean, it was kind of funny, and I feel like even though it was a bit like eye rolly or head scratchy when he said it, that line is probably going to end up becoming a meme. I don't know, because I've watched a lot of people that love the show. I've watched some reactions and people seem to find that hilarious, that part. But anyway, everyone kind of thinks, everyone kind of starting to see Maximus as the lovable idiot. It feels like it's getting there.
So a woman breaks her water. Everybody freaks out in basically what they say is a breeding vault. Wouldn't everybody know what to do in a breeding vault if a woman breaks her water?
It's not a breeding vault.
Well,
That's wrong. It's not a breeding vault. I don't know where you got that from. It's just a vault, and they have babies. Like, and they weren't that confused. I don't know what's this whole thing about them being really shocked and confused and acting like they've never seen a water break before. That's not what happened. They were just shocked because her water broke. You know, like, I think they knew what that is clearly because they've been birthed there. Lucy was born there, as far as we know. Unless it's going to be more of a reveal that maybe all of them are made and they weren't born there and they've been frozen. All of them have been, maybe, and they didn't know it or something. Got some kind of amnesia. Other than that, I think they're overreacting to them overreacting, which they didn't do. They didn't even overreact.
I mean, is it a breeding vault specifically, or is it
No,
just
it's
like
not,
a
man.
general?
They said.
It's not.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, but it's not. It's like it's a control. It's not a control vault.
No.
Actually,
I think this show doesn't even remotely respect your time or your intelligence. Nothing makes any fucking sense. Everyone acts like a retard, and they're relying on iconography to trick you into ignoring pretty much everything in terms of how lazy or backward ass the development is. With some downright
You can't debate it. You can't debate any of that. Those are just blanket statements. Now let's get into the nitty gritty.
hilariously embarrassing points of view peppered in throughout a lot of the plot lines that if you just keep an eye on them, you can see just how everything is developing. Now, I have seen the show twice to make sure that I didn't
So
miss
have I.
a lot of things. And you know what? Second time around, I was like, fuck, this makes even less sense. It's getting real confused. The nature of Vault Tech, I take massive issue with how they've been portrayed. They're just like every single thing that they intend to do is I can only describe as retarded. All the main characters, I have to take dramatic disagreement with what Lucy goes through. Every single fucking thing she goes through gets reversed almost instantly soon after.
Not every single thing. He's going to talk about her finger now. And yes, I noticed that too when her finger got cut off and then she just magically got a new finger on there. But the fact is, she went through the trauma of her finger getting cut off. Whether she gets a new hand, Luke Skywalker immediately gets a new hand after his arm gets chopped off. And it's still a big deal. Anakin Skywalker gets his arm chopped off. He gets a new hand too. Does that ruin the fact that they lost their arm? They lost a limb? Like, you can't... Like... I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I'm sure he doesn't have a criticism about that. Maybe he does because it's Mauler, and you know he'll criticize things people love. He don't give a fuck, which is why I respect him because I know Mauler doesn't pull punches unless he really loves the thing himself. But yeah, so I don't know if you're gonna criticize Lucy for getting her finger back. You got to criticize Luke Skywalker for getting a new limb. Maybe because it's robotic, that makes it different. If it was a robotic finger, would that be different? Would that be okay? I don't know. He does mention that the finger is almost the same as hers, so maybe that's his issue. Maybe if it was a robotic finger, he'll be okay with it. But that's just such minor.
Incredibly
it's a dead
boring.
finger.
I think this is best accentuated by the fact that a finger gets cut off and then 5 minutes later it's reattached with a dead finger from someone else that just happens to be the exact same shape and size by a robot who intends to cut her up for organs. That makes sense. And then, of course, you know, the amount of times people are shot at and they completely miss. The fucking minigun that fires 1,000 rounds.
Okay, yeah, that I will admit that bit was trash. The bit where the doctor's running and he gets shot at. There's ways you can explain it away, video game logic, luck. He's the Enclave doctor has maxed out luck or something. But yeah, I mean that happens in so many movies though. How many movies have we watched? TV shows have we watched? It's an old trope where the characters get shot at and no bullet hits them. No. I'm surprised even Maximus got shot in that one scene with the male and the female bum. Maximus actually got shot in that scene, but no, you don't look at that. You just look at only the negative parts.
Dr. Wilzig or whatever his fucking name is, completely missed, right? The Walton Goggins fires something like 30 rounds at Maximus, misses everything, even though in episode 8 he can insta-kill power armor with one shot.
All right, so the whole he shoots 30 rounds at Maximus and misses everything. I don't know exactly what he's talking about there. If someone's watching this and they're paying attention, let me know what he's talking about in the comments. But from what I remember, when Walton Goggins and Maximus fight each other, obviously he's got the power armor on. If he's talking about the part where he's covering Lucy and the bullets are literally pinging off him, he's not missing a shot. He's deflecting the bullets with his power armor. If he's talking about why he didn't one-shot him in his weak spot like he did later in the show, right at the final episode where he figured out the weak spot, well, that might be a fair criticism. Like, oh, why didn't he do that earlier? But this is why you got to use your imagination for these things to help you. In my head canon, we're seeing all these flashbacks to explain the ghoul, Walton Goggins' character's backstory. But if you think about it, the ghoul's backstory is him remembering things. Is him. I mean, remember, he was been buried at the start of the show. He was buried for I don't know how long for, and it feels like he's been woken up and he's just remembering things as he goes along. Remembering things are triggering his memory. You know, maybe hearing her name, Lucy McLean, and all these kinds of things, and he remembers the T-45 armor, and he remembers he specifically talks about the design flaws in the memory, and that was after he had his fight with Maximus. So my headcanon is that he remembered how to take the T-60s out. He was even asking, do they have the same design flaw? It's like they didn't make it explicit, but it feels like the flashbacks we see is the ghoul remembering his past. And I would see him not like finishing off Maximus right away like he does later on, because he wasn't really thinking about that then. You know, he wasn't thinking about the weak spot of the T-45 armors or whatnot. You know, he was in his own element at that point. You know, until we see the flashback and we learn about the weak spot ourselves, or the design flaws rather that he was talking about in the flashback. There's other ways you could even reinterpret Walton Goggins' struggle fighting Maximus, who doesn't know what he's doing. It could be him just having fun. It could be him messing around. He could see how trash he was. Maybe he wanted to steal the core or something after he'd finished with him. I don't know, but there's plenty of reasons. There's ways you could think around that. It's just how pedantic and how much spelled out do you want things to be for you? You know, sometimes Mauler gets pissed off that the writers insult the audience intelligence by wanting to spell things out for you, by wanting all this exposition, and then he gets pissed off when he has to infer things for himself by little hints dropped in there. But it's not obvious enough to make it seem like, was that done intentionally or was that done by accident? You know, it's like, you got to pick one, Mauler, man.
That made a lot of sense. I was watching.
Wait, when does he fire at Maximus? Sorry,
about 30 times
in Philly.
No, but when? What episode?
In Philly,
Episode 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
right,
he shoots the scientist's foot off, and then Maximus jumps off, and then he shoots him about 50 times. Maximus punches him, and he somehow survives which can destroy concrete.
All Maximus had to do was punch his head, but he just doesn't. He keeps throwing him around because everyone has intense plot armor in the show, and even if they lose a...
Hey, come on, Mauler, man. That's disingenuous as fuck. How many TV shows do that? Even your favorite shows do that. How many movies do that where the character could easily one-shot or squish or break their skull, but they did it in Resident Evil, which is, it's always bad when they do it, but you can't give Fallout special criticism when that does it, when every other show does it. Yes, you should criticize every show and be consistent, but I don't feel like Mauler's always consistent making that criticism. If he was, he wouldn't be saying, oh, the show's bad because it does this. It says it makes the same mistakes every other show does. Then I'd be like, okay, fair enough, that's true. But he's trying to say Fallout is especially bad because it makes this mistake of the character not killing when he has a kill opportunity and like throwing them or picking them up and doing cliche things that every TV show does. So that's not a fair criticism of this show in particular, you know?
A foot, or if they get shot in the fucking gut, they'll just be healed seconds later if they're a main character.
Yeah, but that's what happens in the game, though, isn't it?
No.
Well, if you get a stim pack, it'll basically heal you up, and they pretty much do that here.
I mean,
but he doesn't. He gets shot twice in the back, and then he sits down, and he's not even.
He's a ghoul. He heals. Are you not paying attention? What? I don't know. Like, anyway, I'm not angry. He's a ghoul. Like, he gets shot, and he heals. We've seen it happen with the guy later on. You know, maybe you won't know it at the time. But it clearly does. He explains later that he's filled with all kinds of drugs. Like the girl, Lucy shoots him in the chest, with a tranquilizer. It has no effect on him because he's filled with so much drugs and shit. He probably can't even feel anything. Like, it doesn't have no effect on him because he's a ghoul. Like, they're almost like zombies in a way.
Phased. Then Maximus comes in, punches him full power in the chest. He flies across into the stairs, and he's perfectly fine.
But isn't that the point of a ghoul? Like, they don't die.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
normal
Well,
My
sense,
issue
like
is
zombies.
not their ability to heal. It's the coincidence that they have access to the materials instantly. For example, Maximus gets into a point-blank shootout with two people who pull first on him. And somehow one of them misses and one of them shoots him in the arm while he kills both of them. Very lucky, but hey, it works out. He's bleeding out, and they're like, damn, we need to sort out this bleeding out, Maximus. Hopefully we stumble across somewhere that can help us, and they happen to fall into Vault 4, which supplies them fully with material to stitch them up, to give them antibiotics, to feed them, to give them food and water, and then to house them. We can get into Vault 4 later if you want, but ultimately gets them on their way. They practically...
This is one of the moments where Mauler just never has coincidences or never has moments of luck in his life. And the fact is, they were looking specifically to heal Maximus. They were trying to. That's why they went there in the first place. They were trying to find a hospital or a place where they might be able to find medical supplies. So they were going to go to do something like that anyway. Lucy's trained, I think, in some sort of capacity to do that. So what feels like Mauler wanted to happen was them not to fall into Vault 4, not to have any story, and to get to some random medical place where Lucy finds supplies and then patches Maximus up herself, and then off they go to do something else. I don't know, because it's such a massive coincidence they fall into Vault 4. If movies are not a bunch of badass characters or interesting characters falling into crazy situations and some crazy coincidences, then I don't know what we're watching, unless you want to watch a documentary, Moles. I don't know, man. But that seems a bit nitpicky. I don't know.
Get a full heal from the gods that are the writers because he got shot in the arm, which he should have been fucking killed in that scene anyway. He's also retarded.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking this as like literally reflecting the games. Like shit, conveniently happens to get you to the next stage of the story.
I'm not expecting this game to depict real life, Mauler. I'm expecting it to be tonally a lot like a video game. It's going to be nonsense.
I don't agree with that argument. Like, it doesn't have to be like a video game. Mauler's right. Like, it should have like a tone and stick to it. It shouldn't be trying to emulate a video game. It should be like, what if this game was real life? That's what I think an adaptation is. It's not trying to depict the game in movie form. It's a kind of weird meta thing to try and say this thing that's depicted in real life is also trying to depict a video game. That's just, I don't agree with that. But at the same time, like, Mauler's wrong. There's nothing wrong with them accidentally finding Vault 4. I don't quite see why that's a big minus. There's better arguments Mauler makes for why there's some bad things about the show, but them finding Vault 4 is not one of them. That's just kind of lame.
And I don't mind that.
Accidentally finding Vault 4.
As long as
So you agree, right? Because I already knew it was going to happen. You agree there's no stakes?
I don't know about that.
I agree that...
No stakes. Yeah, maybe there's not as much stakes. But how many things have stakes unless you're watching fucking Game of Thrones? How many TV shows have stakes unless you're watching Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones was actually the first TV show I watched, which is even that long ago. Okay, maybe it's 10 years ago now. But, I mean, it was going for a while. Game of Thrones was the first TV show that made me realize, wow, nothing has stakes until I saw Game of Thrones. You know, your main character's not going to die. Your main leads aren't going to die, at least until later on in the season. We're not here to just watch characters to just die. We're watching these amazing characters do amazing things. That's why we're watching them, because they go through a journey that goes through all these different kinds of emotions. It's not necessarily we're just here to watch a character nearly die and think, oh my God, or die or whatever, you know? So sometimes we already know that a show doesn't have stakes, but we're here to see something else. We're here to see some entertaining characters interact. We're here to see some action. We're here to see some story. We're here to see some development. We're not necessarily always here to see if a character is going to survive or not. And I don't know if that's everything, you know? So yeah, maybe Fallout doesn't necessarily have huge stakes in terms of a character's death, but we're here to see how these character stories play out. Not necessarily here to see if they die or not, you know?
Characters have got intense plot armor. And
Yeah,
I got a real sense of, like, people will die when they're goddamn good and ready.
Good, because the fact that it's a video game adaptation is being used
Yeah, like people will die when they're goddamn good and ready because I don't know if critical drinking even meant that in a serious way or not, but at the end of the day, we know that once you can tell when a show is gonna have a character that has serious stakes. Oh my god, they could have died. I never do I ever feel like, oh my god, Lucy's gonna die. Oh my god. I mean, I don't think that's the goal. The goal is to see Lucy's story play out and see what she has to go through and see her character change, see how she develops, see how she changes from this happy-go-lucky, okie dokie to this hardened, wastelander girl. You want to see that progression. The stakes is just like it could have a bit of salt, a bit of pepper, but it's not going to be the be all end all of what makes a show good.
As a shield for it, and it's getting boring. Like every single problem with this game is like, oh, but I don't know, it happens in the game, so I guess that's okay with me. It's like,
see, that's not my argument. That it happens in the game. I've already said my argument, but yeah,
feel like it's the game.
That's their argument.
Wonderful, and I appreciate you're enjoying the experience, but that is not the intention of the show. It is attempting to tell you a dramatic story with characters who are going through journeys. It is important when people die.
Where it very much feels like you're just seeing a video game play out with a lot of the mechanics, a lot of the satirical humor that comes with the games, or you can just have a straight up dramatic story, in which case it's going to feel kind of disjointed from the games because it's a different tone. Because the things that happen in the games can't possibly happen.
Examples that nail this compared, and the fact is the best and brightest of the video game adaptations being something like an Arcane, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I would say even fucking the Mario movie has better stakes than this show does, because this show just doesn't.
How does the Mario movie have better stakes than Fallout? I mean, if you give us an example, that would be great, but I don't think he does. Mario movie. I love the Mario movie, but I'm trying to think what stakes he could be possibly talking about. That they could have destroyed. They nearly could have destroyed Brooklyn. Is that it? Maybe Mario saves Brooklyn. That's the only thing I can think of. Luigi. I need to watch that movie again, to be honest. Luigi nearly dies or something. But we know Luigi's not going to die just as much as we know Lucy's not going to die. Hell, you talk about stakes. Maximus, I wasn't sure if he was dead or not. I was pretty confident, nah, they won't kill off Maximus like that. As a matter of fact, I was even thinking in my head, I think it's in my reaction, I was thinking in my head, oh man, are they actually going to kill the black guy first? I fully thought Maximus might be dead. I don't know if that was the intention, but I thought it was because he got punched by power armor. You can say, oh my god, how did he survive that? That's dumb, but in terms of Mauler's argument right now, there's no stakes. I thought Maximus had died in the last episode. I don't remember anything that crazy in Mario, but anyway.
Doesn't care. It just like anything that the guy is like, oh, he gets his foot when he is crushed by power armor on his foot. I was like, you ain't walking on that ever again. And then they established like several episodes later. Yeah, he's walked fucking miles. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, the way his foot looks is crazy. Like he's walking miles with that foot. But again, nitpicks. Like, yes, we can see in real life, there's no way he'd be walking on that foot. But at the end of the day, it's a satirical, silly show where you just suspend your disbelief for certain little things like that. Especially when there's a little comedy involved. Like the way his toes hanging off is literally comedic. And maybe in the wasteland, in this post-apocalyptic world, people are just a lot stronger. They're just hell of a lot stronger. Maybe they can take a lot more damage and still walk on damaged feet more than we can. I mean, we're soft. We'd be eating McDonald's every day. We'll be enjoying, we're enjoying the freedoms of having water that's clean and not radiated. Maybe in this world, people are just a little bit harder, a bit tougher, and they can walk on busted up feet with hanging off toes and shit. But I see what Mauler's saying. I said it myself when I was watching it. I was like, oh my God, his foot was like that. He's walking on it. That's so silly. But then I kind of just moved past it. Like little things like that, you can't let bother you, which is why some people love this show, because people can see past stupid little things like that. It's when it's egregious. Like his foot is mad and him walking on it is crazy, but at least he's limping. At least we just got the impression that he's got a fucked up foot. But it's not egregious to the point where he's sprinting or anything and his foot looks like that. It's not to the point where where it destroys your suspense of disbelief, And this is again more of Mauler's nitpicking, which is like, yeah, it is kind of silly, but at the same time, it's not taking me out of the show. It's just his foot's fucked. We get it, and it gets fixed later. Whatever.
Shit, and then he just gets it healed, right? Which is a video game mechanic. Sure, I'm fine with the idea that you can heal anything. Becomes a ghoul as a result of that. I was like, okay, I guess that's the rule. Which
he might become a ghoul, or he might become a super mutant. I don't know. I think he's going to become a super mutant. I know everyone says he's becoming a ghoul. I know Maximus said, "Oh, you're a ghoul," but I think Maximus, like most things in this show, he's probably wrong. And I have a feeling he might turn into a super mutant. Yeah, you heard it here first. But
it's incredibly convenient because now that means he can't go back to the Brotherhood, which means he has to provide the head back to Maximus, which is exactly what he needed for the plot. He somehow caught up to him despite being behind him when he first went into Vault 4. They waste a whole bunch of time there, and then they come out and somehow catch up to him instantly before the Brotherhood arrive. Had they been 5 minutes later, the whole story doesn't work, which, by the way...
Bro, I think it's more like autistic or something. Is he like super autistic or some shit? What's he even talking about? So they come here, they go to this, they get this, and they get them head, and he comes in and like, what do you want for them? Like, so he's upset that him becoming a ghoul makes it convenient that he can't go back to the Brotherhood with the head. So Maximus has to take the head because the Brotherhood will kill him because he's become a ghoul or something. Why is that convenient? That means it was set. That means it's good writing technically because he got his foot crushed. His foot crushed led to the guy that they've been setting up through the whole series. The guy that's like a witch doctor or like a snake oil salesman or whatever. They've been setting this guy up, and they even just had a hint at it in the first or second episode where he was like, I can make you grow a whole new foot and all this kind of shit. And then he bumps into the Brotherhood guy, and then he heals his foot. That we've established that this is a snake oil guy. So he heals the guy's foot, but then he turns into a ghoul. And obviously the guy threatened him, which he might have given him a good medicine, but he gave him a shit medicine because he was threatening him. And the guy's obviously dodgy as hell. We knew from the way the guy was, the snake oil guy, that you don't want to be taking medicine from this guy. And we know the Brotherhood have already been established as, well, I know in the games, maybe not very well on the show, but they've been established as they don't take no tolerance for no bullshit. If you fuck up even a little bit, even if it's not your fault, they'll punish you for it. We've seen the fear in the eyes of Maximus, and we've seen Titus... Michael Rappaport talk shit about how the Brotherhood don't take no shit for any mistakes. And we've seen it even with the way this guy behaved when Maximus revealed himself to him. So why is it hard to believe that him fixing his foot turned him into a ghoul and then made him not want to face the Brotherhood? That has all been set up perfectly. How is that a convenience? Like, maybe them finding each other is a bit convenient, but Lucy's tracking the head. She's tracking the head with her Pip-Boy. So I don't know what Mauler's talking about, man.
I want to go back to the beginning. As the problems with episode 1 are accentuated once you get the full context of the whole season, everything makes even less sense. Moldova cares extremely about Rose, her values, and her children, yet she allows her raiders to nearly kill Lucy several times. That makes no sense at all. She doesn't.
If you're going to get into a vault, you're going to have to fight your way in, and you're going to risk killing everyone, potentially Hank as well, who you need to get the code. So wouldn't it make sense to go into 32, where you can kill everyone, impersonate them, and then fake your way into 33?
They do that in 31. She releases her raiders to kill everyone in 31. That's what happens in episode 1.
No, Vault 31 is the control vault that oversees it all.
Oh, sorry, 33. Yeah. If she didn't want to have everyone get into a big fight in 33, then why did she do that anyway?
Well, I guess she was hoping that they would be able to infiltrate the place. Like, they get discovered ultimately, and then it all goes to shit, and they have to kill everyone.
They just start killing everybody.
Yeah, they're eating cake as they're doing it.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. I would definitely eat cake when I kill people.
Remember,
bruh, is Reaper serious right now? Man's upset because raiders that haven't even seen any decent food for all their lives probably are eating cake while they're killing people. They probably kill people for breakfast, man. Like, they kill people like it's nothing. And eating cake while killing people is nothing to these guys. Though I will say the whole Moldova thing, like, she's supposed to be this quote unquote good guy, apparently. but she's working with these horrible raiders that probably rape and pillage and eat people's cake. But here's the thing: I don't think Moldova's is a good guy. She's a means to the end. Cooper hinted it out when he was talking to her. Like, the best bad guys are the ones that think they're doing good. You know, like, yeah, maybe he's talking about Hank, but I think it also applies to Moldova. Hank also says later on, Moldova is not different to me, you know. Yeah, she's doing something altruistic. She's Moldova is basically the end justifies the means, you know. And I think that's the whole reason why she didn't give a fuck what happened to the Vault Dwellers or whatnot. And yes, Mauler explained something. He was talking about Lucy and how Moldova clearly cares about Lucy or whatever because her mother and all this kind of shit. But I'm not even sure she knew where Lucy was necessarily, because it wasn't until Lucy tried to go save her dad that Moldova actually noticed. I'm not really sure that she really paid attention to who Lucy was. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But I don't think she was necessarily trying to kill Lucy. If she died probably, you know? Like, I don't think she cared much about Lucy as like that. Yeah, she understood that was her lover's or her friend's daughter, but I don't think she had that much of a care for her like that. Like, I don't know.
Just try and pretend you are Moldova for a second. You need to get Hank, and preferably you need to free these people from the experiment, because remember, Rose believed that they were under a horrible experiment. Moldova believed in her. She described her as like good, kind, intelligent, caring, curious, and that was reflected in her kids. She practically let her kids get killed as far as she was concerned. Remember, at one point she says you got to choose your daughter or these people. He chooses his daughter, so she leaves her behind in the vault instead of liberating her from this horrible experience. But then doesn't even...
Moldova's not a good person, Mauler, man. You thinking of her like some altruistic hero. She's not a hero, fam. She just does things to... She kept Lucy's mum alive all those years. She didn't put her out of her misery. Moldova's not a good person. They're trying to make it seem like she is, but she's not. That's what Hank was saying. Because Hank is a villain, it's hard to tell, to listen to what he's saying. But he says Moldova's not different to me. Like, yeah, villains lie. Yeah, you're not supposed to take what they say seriously. But you don't know that. You don't know what you're supposed to take from this, except for your own interpretation. And at least my interpretation is Moldova's not a good person. I don't even like her. She's like... She just does something that's good, but it doesn't make her a good person necessarily. She's fighting for the greater good, and she'll do evil things or bad things for the greater good. That's what Moldova is. That's the whole point. I'm pretty sure. She kept Lucy's mum alive. Lucy was the one that had to put her out of her misery, you know? And who knows? She may even kept Lucy's mum alive for manipulation tactics. I don't know. I guess she must have known Lucy was in that vault. Maybe she thought she could use that to manipulate Hank or something. That would have been a good scene to see. That could have been good, but she's not a good person. I mean, Mauler might be saying they're presenting her as a good person, and they want us to think she's a good person, which is why the writing's bad. But I never saw her as a good person. But maybe other people might. I don't know. That's how I critically think about this kind of stuff. I don't necessarily always think, what are the writers trying to tell me? I take what I take from the characters and how they speak and their actions, you know. I don't try to guess what the writers are trying to tell me. I just take it for what I'm seeing, you know, and have my own interpretation from there. Well, unless the writers come out and specifically say Moldova's a hero and Hank is the villain, I don't think I've seen that anywhere. For now, I'm thinking Moldova's maybe almost as bad as Hank. The only reason that she's not as bad as Hank is because her goals were more altruistic than Hank's goals, you know? But the way to get to those goals proves she could be just as bad as him.
That he had to choose between. I didn't make any sense of any of that, but it gets so much worse.
She needs the code, and that choice shows that he cares more about his daughter than anyone else. So why not just go, we're going to kill your daughter unless you give us the code?
Why not, in case he lies, right? Why not kidnap him and the daughter, take them to the observatory, and then have him put the code in? If he refuses, then you threaten the daughter. It's the simplest shit ever, but it gets so much stupider, right? I don't want to spend too much time on the vaults. She would walk back from Vault 33 through to 32, back out into the wasteland, all the way to the observatory, correct? We're all on board with that. The other half of this is she needs to get Wilzig's head Now, preferably, it would be attached to his body. She doesn't want him dead or anything. He's in the Enclave. He moves to Philly. Then he gets the head taken off, and then she takes that with the ghoul all the way to, like, it goes on an adventure. It eventually gets back to the observatory. Why does Moldova pay someone called Rufus to pay someone called Tommy to pay someone called Ma June to help move Mr. Wilzig from Philly to the observatory instead of just doing it herself? She went to the vault. That is further back than Philly. So she would have been. She had to walk past Wilzig to get to the observatory, and she decided instead she would pay a whole bunch of people to pay a whole.
Wait, hold on. How does he know she has to walk past? She has to go past the Enclave. Philly is further away than the Enclave. I don't know if it's that simple. Also, Wilzig willingly left the Enclave. I don't think she could just penetrate the Enclave like that and get in. He was under heavy guard, like. But I don't know how he was like. I think he probably had to get out himself. You know. I don't know when she even. We don't really know the details of when she even found out about the guy having the thing. I don't even know the details of that. I might have missed that, but it looks like he had to get out himself, and she couldn't penetrate the Enclave the same way she could penetrate a vault. The Enclave ain't as naive as the Vault Dwellers. The Vault Dwellers are naive, and Moldova knows that. Lucy's mum's Pip-Boy. I think that's how she got in the vault, with Lucy's mum's Pip-Boy. So she could penetrate the vaults a lot easier than trying to penetrate the Enclave, I'm guessing. But they could have made that clearer, I'll say that. I will say they could have made that clearer. In terms of, like, get that woman to send the doctor to the NCR, wherever her location is. I'm assuming Moldova is probably more like very well known. She's wanted. They established that she's a wanted woman, and her face is recognized everywhere, so she probably can't just move around like that. I know she went to the vaults, but that's like probably a one-off thing. I don't know if she can move around like that, you know. I don't know, but I mean, it doesn't. Again, it's another kind of nitpicky thing. Like, oh, why didn't she just do this? Why didn't she just do that? Why didn't she just do this? Because she didn't do that. Because she didn't do this. You know, like those are very like. That doesn't. It can't ruin the show for me unless it's such an obvious flaw. It's not an obvious thing. Like, it's just something. There could be so many reasons they'd have to explain that to you why she doesn't do it that way or this way or that way. There could be so many reasons you could think of. If there's something that it could be explained away, I'm not going to have a problem with it unless it's so blatantly obvious that it can't be explained away. You know, that's the way I watch shows. And I think that's the way most normal people watch shows, unless you're completely autistic. And you need, like, let's face it, Mauler's autism levels, I don't know what it is, but he's got some kind of autism level where he needs things explained to him. Otherwise, he will think of a better way to do it, which is a viable, better way to do it. But you don't know what other issues or what other things could be surrounding that viable way to stop that way being the most optimal way to do the thing, you know? So it depends. Unless it's like obvious in your face, I can suspend my disbelief and I can come up with things in my own head of why that couldn't work. You know, it's not hard. You could do this with almost every movie.
A bunch of people to get him to the observatory. Why not just do it yourself?
It's gonna be a long video.
I don't know the geography of
I don't.
and where they sit in relation to the observatory.
If you remember, Lucy, when she leaves the vault to go to Philly, she bumps into Wilzig immediately. Wilzig is known to be going.
Yeah, but you don't know where. You don't know how far he's wandered from where he started.
No, Lucy was walking for ages, fam. What's he on about? Wait, this is the scene after she walks past that big boat in the desert, right? The wreck. I'm pretty sure this is after the wreck, right? Lucy's been walking, man. She's been walking far, I think. But anyway, someone tell me in the comments if the timeline's wrong there. But like, I think Mauler's. You know what's really funny about what Mauler's doing here? Mauler's doing the opposite of what I do, which is probably how you should watch a show. What I'm doing is basically filling in the gaps of why this and this won't work that way to make it make sense so I can enjoy the show. What Mauler's doing is doing the opposite, where he's filling in the gaps of certain things to make it make less sense. So like, he's like, oh, the Doctor must be really close to Lucy because two scenes ago, Lucy was there, even though they had this whole establishing shot that she's been walking through, but they ain't got time to show her walking for an actual 15 days. So they got to show it in like a second, which makes it feel like it's 5 minutes away, but it could have been like 5 days away. I don't know. Mauler's just, I don't know.
But he's supposed to go to Philly. That's the point. Is Ma June is supposed to take care of him in Philly. She's paid to do that by Moldova. If Moldova's going to pay 3 different people to take care of him in Philly to the observatory, why not just do it herself?
Also, the Enclave must be close because when Lucy leaves the vault, the scientist bums right into her, so he's got to be nearby.
Well, she used fast travel to get there, clearly.
It's so retarded because I actually think that it's just something that they hope you don't notice. She does all that work with the vaults herself, personally, with her raiders. She could have done Wilzig along the way, but she just doesn't, because otherwise we wouldn't have a whole...
She couldn't... How do you know she could just infiltrate the Enclave like that? It's not the same as infiltrating a vault. She had a Pip-Boy to get into the vault. She was undercover in the vault, wearing, like, vault clothing until she could get to this point where she can grab Hank, you know? Like, it's probably not easy to just go into the Enclave and just wipe them all out and then take the Wilzig like that. I mean, they could make it easy in the TV show, but then you'd have no story. Like, if you really wanted it to be simple, you can just have, oh, why couldn't they just have Moldova just take the guy and take the thing? Or why didn't Moldova just not give her items up? Why didn't Moldova just keep it on her and then there wouldn't be a fallout and then everyone would have had renewable energy? Why couldn't Moldova get a crew together back in 2077 and not let it get to this point, you know? Why didn't Moldova just destroy Voltec? You could do that for loads of stupid stuff. Like, there's could be so many reasons why Moldova doesn't attack the Enclave head on. Why do you need it spelled out for you? As long as the story is good that we're given, the other alternative routes they could have taken doesn't really matter. Unless the route that we're shown is so bad. But I don't think it's that bad. I think Mauler's being really pedantic about it. I don't know. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments below if you think I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't know if I can keep going with this. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2. This video is long enough as it is. I might do a part 2 reaction to this if you want me to. See how this one does. This is just... my initial reaction to the first few things. There's so much more Mauler's gonna say, but this video is so long as it is, and yeah, I just want to see how this one does, and I might do a part 2. Let me know. Peace.